My name is Monica Blanco. I'm the vice president and co-founder of Phil Excellence. I also just recently joined Team Astoria, and my day job is a trauma-informed personal trainer. I grew up in the Midwest in Michigan, which is predominantly white. This is a familiar story for many people, and being the second generation kid of immigrant parents and the eldest daughter, which is its own thing. I think navigating all of the layers and these spaces where no one looked like me, where I didn't necessarily have that many role models that did something other than join the healthcare system. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I just really tunnel visioned myself into what was possible, because in one sense, I know how much, my parents sacrificed for me, and I'm forever blessed, lucky, grateful, and privileged. But at the same time, being the first born in America, I don't know, I think it really, it wasn't their intention. It's everyone's first time living life. And to go through different challenges and struggles is honorable in its own right. But I think when you're so limited in your view of what's possible, it can feel, you can feel lost, I guess. The long story short is that all of my experiences in slowly opening myself up to be curious and explore, maybe there's something more that I could provide. Maybe there's a reason I don't necessarily feel like I'm being myself, that I have a hard time really truly experiencing presence and joy and fulfillment, or what even are those definitions to me, and what does it mean for me to be happy, and what is success really? How do I define success for myself rather than through the lens of other people? And I think I, kind of grew up navigating these spaces, adopting myself to different value systems that I just thought were what you had to do. And, that came in many forms, right? Just growing up with girlfriends that, also have their own identities, but I'm adopting theirs. And there's so many layers with being Filipino, with being a woman, with being neurodivergent, with being 4'10". There's just so many experiences that are so unique to me that I felt so embarrassed about and wanted to hide. And I look back and I grieve for the moments that I wasn't able to recognize my value and my worth, and was seeking the approval and validation from outside external sources. There's the identity part, and really connecting with myself as a Filipino American. And then there's also how I connect with my body and how I care for my mental health and my physical health, which is through movement, and also service. One thing I think my parents modeled really well for me was bayanihan, and really taking care of each other, and emphasizing community care, collective care, and your role within creating just a better place and environment for people. So whatever shape or form that takes, I think that's something that I will forever want to carry out as, my family's legacy too. And that's just also a natural thing Filipinos are really good at, is being hospitable. When I look back in hindsight, I can recognize significant moments, or seasons rather, where I was a little bit more explorative, or I was a little bit more curious. But then I also kind of recognize that those moments were short-lived, because those were still me seeking approval from the Filipino community. And the common feeling of not, feeling American enough, being Filipino enough, always being split between those two different identities that also have so many layers and nuances to them. I recognize now that those seasons were, I think they were inching me a little bit closer and closer. But it was also kind of like I was still looking for the external acceptance validation. And I guess I don't know where in my head I had this idea that I wasn't ever enough in general. But as I recognize what really matters to me and what my values really are, it is so important for me to really feel like I can exist without worry. I think the biggest privilege in life is really to be at peace and be able to sit in the present moment without thinking if I'm enough, or it's this confidence that you're worthy and valuable regardless of who you are, what you do, where you came from. To also take you back for a little bit more context, prior to COVID, I was in this state of extreme burnout. I was very, depressed and not able to feel a connection to anything, really. I was caught in this just like constant habitual pattern of kind of wanting to escape and avoid super uncomfortable emotions because I was doing something that I didn't necessarily feel fulfilled in, for lack of better words. And I mean, I think it's one thing to do something that you like aren't super excited about, but it's another to just go through every single day like feeling like everything is so mundane and boring and not purposeful. And that just takes a toll on you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. I think there are so many times I recognize that in trying to escape and avoid uncomfortable feelings in my body, emotions that I didn't understand, couldn't identify, my body's natural and my brain would just want to find any way to numb and do what I could to find this false sense of safety in that escapism. And of course, there's healthy forms of escapism. Like, I think it's okay to take some time to step away from a situation and go on a walk or whatever. But in this case, for me, what that ended up being was movement and exercise and lifting weights, resistance training, doing group fitness classes. Because you are, I think, especially today, it's very glorified to be a fitness girly, a fitness influencer. You're praised for having this, beast don't rest, no days off. You're weak if you don't wake up at 5. Like, it's just this whole culture that we all know and hate. But it does perpetuate this also feeling of, oh, you're not worthy or valuable if you do not look a certain way, if you do not eat a certain way, if you do not live a certain way. And so, again, going just back to what I mentioned before of finding validation, it's been a layer and a reoccurring theme for me throughout my long 27 years of life. But in that time, COVID hit, and I went home back to Michigan. I was in Chicago at the time. I really had to face myself, and there would be so many comments from trainers in those group classes that they would ask me, would you ever consider doing this? Like, would you ever consider being a trainer? I would often be the one that would like demo certain moves. And I realized that I confused working out and actually doing the thing with learning about the thing. But in recognizing, oh, I really enjoy learning about the body, and I really enjoy understanding people and also taking care of them in a way, connecting with them, also providing a vehicle for them to kind of step out of their mind and into their body, because I think we can spend so much time thinking. I'm speaking for myself, I do that. But if something, I don't think I had felt that feeling of like, oh my God, this is so fun, I want to learn more, in a long time. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get a certification. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And that's essentially how I started my career in movement, in personal training, teaching mostly women how to lift weights and not fear, the gym setting, and feel empowered to focus more on what they can do rather than, what they look like.